For millions of people, a failing marriage becomes a slow, agonizing dance of despair. They are trapped in a purgatory of indecision, caught between the financial terror of leaving, the fear of damaging their children, and the crushing weight of staying with a partner who feels like an adversary. Society often makes this trap worse, with a well-meaning but dangerous cliché that marriage takes hard work. When people internalize this, they easily confuse a normal rough patch with an environment of active, targeted harm. Relationship therapists make a strict distinction here. A difficult marriage is one strained by external stressors, like job loss, health issues, or intrusive in-laws. The tension is high, but both partners are still ultimately on the same team, trying to solve the problem together. A destructive marriage operates entirely differently. Looking at clinical diagnostic tools like this checklist, the identifiers of toxicity become clear. You see constant criticism, deliberate emotional abuse, and severely unbalanced power dynamics. In a destructive relationship, the very personhood, dignity, and freedom of the individual are systematically crushed. Mislabeling this kind of psychological destruction as just a difficult phase is dangerous. It strips victims of the urgency they need to seek safety and keeps them locked inside an exploitative dynamic. Decades of clinical observation had shown us that relationship death is not random. Dr. John Gottman spent over 50 years studying thousands of couples, analyzing their interactions to the point where he could predict divorce with 94% accuracy. His research resulted in the cascade model of relational dissolution. It proved that relationships don't just explode overnight. Instead, they decay through a highly predictable linear sequence of hostile behaviors. Pinpointing exactly where a couple sits on this downward slope provides a clear diagnosis. It is the only reliable way to know if a marriage can be salvaged or if the relationship is already functionally dead. This decay often reveals itself in the first few seconds of a disagreement. Researchers call it the harsh startup. When an argument begins with aggression, sarcasm, or refusal to hear the other side, statistics show that 96% of the time, the entire conversation is doomed to fail. This chart visualizes what Gottman calls the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. These are the 4 specific negative behaviors that actively drive the cascade of relationship decay. The first tier is criticism, attacking a partner's core character rather than their actions. That naturally triggers the second tier, defensiveness, where a partner refuses to take any accountability. The cascade then drops into the third tier, contempt. This includes mockery, belittling, and active disrespect. Clinical data shows contempt is the single most lethal predictor of divorce. Finally, the communication breaks down entirely into stonewalling. One partner becomes so overwhelmed, they shut down, physically and mentally withdrawing from the interaction completely. These visible communicative breakdowns are also frequently paired with what experts call hidden fractures. These are concealed betrayals, secret addictions, hidden financial control, or double lives that drain a family's resources and safety. By combining these hidden fractures with the relentless assault of the 4 horsemen, a marriage becomes an environment of pure hostility, and so mutual respect is shattered beyond repair. Constant exposure to the 4 horsemen initiates a direct and overwhelming physiological assault on the body, known as flooding. This line graph maps out the physical reality of a toxic argument. A partner becomes so overwhelmed by sudden negativity that their heart rate spikes rapidly, pushing past 100 beats per minute. Adrenaline surges through the bloodstream. As the heart rate remains trapped in this elevated danger zone, the brain physically protects itself by shutting down cognitive processing. Rational problem-solving and empathy become biologically impossible. Over years of chronic sledding, the brain adapts to the constant threat by rewriting the history of the marriage. It recategorizes landmark moments, weddings, vacations, the birth of children, as entirely negative experiences. When your nervous system is forced to live in a perpetual state of physiological self-defense, romantic intimacy is impossible to maintain. The biological death of the relationship cements the emotional one. Despite the physiological and emotional toll, one ultimate barrier keeps countless people in destructive marriages:
the deeply held belief that staying together is what's best for the children. Decades of psychological research directly contradict this. Studies show that the legal status of a marriage doesn't harm kids. It is the exposure to chronic conflict that actively inflicts emotional and psychological damage. Children raised in environments filled with manipulation, yelling, and emotional detachment reliably exhibit physical ailments, behavioral issues, severe anxiety, depression, and symptoms of PTSD. Leaving a toxic marriage is heavily stigmatized as breaking up a family. The data demands we reframe it. Leaving is a necessary action to protect children from sustaining lifelong psychological trauma. But the harsh reality is that leaving isn't always an option today. Extreme financial control, total social isolation, or a lack of support networks mean many people must stay and survive in the short term. If you are trapped, survival requires a total change in perspective. You have to move your daily objective from saving the marriage to saving your sanity. Therapists advise practicing detachment with neutrality. This means stepping back, accepting that you cannot change or manage your partner's behavior, and actively refusing to engage in the endless cycle of hostile arguments. A key tactic here is staying light and polite. You offer basic respect to de-escalate tension and quietly enforce your own physical boundaries, but you completely remove any expectation of romantic vulnerability. A destructive marriage relies on erasing your independence and making you doubt your own reality. By learning the mechanics of this abuse, setting strict internal boundaries, and controlling your own reactions, you take the first, most crucial step to reclaiming your power and your life.